Welcome to Musings from Arledge on WeAreSC.com. I have with me today one of my favorite people, and I'm not kidding about that, despite the fact that he's a domer and he doesn't know anything. But let me introduce you to my guest. This is Luther Bradley, and if you've been following college football well, I guess at this point, a long time, you know who Luther is. Luther was a you're a four-year starter at Notre Dame, right?
4-year starter.
Four-year starter, two-time All-American, Notre Dame's all-time interceptions leader, played for the Detroit Lions and for three different teams in the USFL, all-time interceptions leader for the USFL.
Yeah.
The record for most interceptions in a professional football game with 6.
Yes.
Played on 2 national championship teams at Notre Dame in 73 and 77. And despite all that, he still lost to a white kid in the 100-meter final in high school. Isn't that right?
Hey, listen, I'm ashamed of that. And you know what? I'll never admit to it.
All right. Well, I won't push on that anymore. I've known Luther Bradley it's been about 26 years now. I just calculated it before we came on. A great guy, and I'm thrilled to have you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's my pleasure. And when you called me, I was so excited because, we had a great time last year, but it didn't work out in terms of, the audio. But I'm telling you, it's always a pleasure to hear from you.
Yeah, okay. So Luther is mentioning that last year before the USC-Notre Dame game, we tried to do this. And actually, Luther brought one of his teammates. And we went for about an hour, and we had a great time. It was hilarious. And I blew the recording. Somehow I messed it up. So when we were done, I had nothing to show for it. So I appreciate you coming back. Your buddy didn't come back because he was fed up with me for messing it up the first time. But that's hey, by the way, I forgot to mention as one of your accomplishments that you played with Rudy. I should have said that.
Wait a minute. Wait, I want to say it in a different way. Rudy played with me.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. You were one of those guys that put your jersey down on Divine's desk and said, if Rudy doesn't get to play, we just rather forfeit, right? You were one of those guys?
No, I was not. Willie Fry, my captain of the team, one of my best friends, was one of those guys. He did it, and he's the one who, pulled the guy up who was also a defensive back and said, hey, look, I'm willing to pull up my jersey and let Rudy play. So kind of an interesting story, man, but it was a good story. I tell you that.
It is a good story. I'll tell you what I like about it. This is my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing about the movie Rudy, because what Rudy shows is that even if you have no athletic ability at all, even if you have no academic ability at all, that's okay because Notre Dame doesn't really have any standards. I mean, it's a beautiful message. It's a beautiful message, and I think everybody should watch the film.
How painful is that, man? Oh, my word.
All right, listen, we're going to have a little bit of that today because every time the two of us talk about this game, there's a little back and forth. So let's start with this. I want you to tell me what makes a USC-Notre Dame game so special.
Well, when I was a freshman at 18 years old, Eric Parsi, in the first meeting that we had preparing for the game, for this particular game, he gets up there and he says, this is our bitter rivals because they've got the sunshine, they've got the pretty cheerleaders, they got all the celebrities in the stands, and we just got this, cold, wintry weather right here in northern Indiana. But he says, we're going to beat them because we got a better football team. And ever since then, I was like, yeah, we're going to beat them. Yeah, they got the celebs, they got all the other stuff, the glitter that goes along with that. We don't need any of that stuff. We're going to beat them anyway, though.
And that year, you did have a better football team.
We did. Although you guys were a good football team as well, though. You weren't no bad football team.
Yeah, that was 73 was that the Wooden Horse game, or was that 77? When was that?
I think the Wooden Horse game was 77.
All right. So 73, you were tasked with covering Lynn Swann.
Yeah, you guys had Pat Hayden and Swann and a whole bunch of superstars, man. I'm telling you, all over the place.
We still, we had Pat Hayden and Lynn Swann decades after that too. We just had them in positions they shouldn't have been in, athletic director. But so Lynn Swann Now, everybody knows who Lynn Swann is, but I assume a lot of people watching this never actually saw him play. How good was Lynn?
Oh, Lynn Swann was, to me, I'd say the best wide receiver I went against. But I got to tell you a true story about Lynn Swann. So it's like in about the third quarter of my freshman year, we're kind of winning the game, but it's a real close game. Swan goes down and runs like a 20-yard curl. All right. He curls right in front of the linebacker. Hayden throws the ball up, I don't know, 10 feet high. Swan jumps up and get it over the linebacker's head, gets it, and on the way back down, before he touches ground, he sees that the linebacker is getting ready to tackle him. And he opens his leg. The linebacker goes through his legs. He gets on his feet, turns around, run another 20 yards. And I'm telling you, as an 18-year-old, my teeth dropped out of my face, man. I'm like, whoa, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. So,
well, okay, so let's talk about this because and this is how I screwed up the recording last time, because I tried to take a video of this play and stick it into the recording and somehow messed everything up. I was watching one of these Notre Dame videos. I can't remember what it was called, but it's one of the ones where they walk through Notre Dame football history and they tell a bunch of lies.
yeah.
And so they were talking about this 73 game, and everybody was talking about how Luther Bradley, the freshman, he's tasked with covering Lynn Swann, and maybe the first play of the game, they throw the ball to Swann, and Luther Bradley comes up and knocks his helmet off, and the crowd goes nuts, right? So I hear this, and I thought, man, I've known Luther for a long time, and I had no idea he could hit people because I'd never heard that before. I had heard about interceptions. I'd never heard about you hitting people. So I go and I look up this play, right? You know the play that I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
okay.
I know.
And it sounded like you did something like a Ronnie Lott type thing where you destroy him and the helmet goes flying. And I got to tell you, when I actually watched the play, I'm not even sure you made contact with him. He must have. I don't think Swann had his chin strap buckled, and I think he tried to cut too fast and it fell off. Because I don't even think I mean, be honest, you barely hit him, right?
I didn't really hit him that hard, but I don't think he had his chin strap on tight enough or something. But I kind of, grabbed him, hit him a little bit, and then pushed him, and just kind of yanked the helmet off a little bit. So everybody thought I hit him hard. I didn't hit him that hard.
All right, so you mentioned something, and I think you're absolutely right about it. Not in terms of the specifics. I know Aaron was just trying to get you guys pumped up, but one of the things that's special about the Notre Dame rivalry is not just that it's two of the great programs of all time, right? Because Ohio State and Michigan is like that. Texas and Oklahoma is like that, right? There are a few other rivalries that have a huge game between two top 5, two top 6 programs. But I think what makes this one different is that USC and Notre Dame are so different, right? They're far apart geographically. The culture of the two programs, the culture of the cities, right? I mean, Ohio State and Michigan may think that they're different, but if you're an outsider, you can't tell the difference between Ohio State and Michigan.
Right.
They're a bunch of Northeastern dudes that used to run the football off tackle every play. Oklahoma and Texas, I mean, they're close together. They're separated by a little muddy creek. I mean, it's not that. But USC and Notre Dame, they really are very, very different. And that makes it different and special, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm telling you, when he said that you guys have the celebrities at your game, we don't have celebrities at our game. We just have regular, normal, hardworking people at our games, and just the celebrities show up at your game all the time. And it's always sunny. It's always get the palm trees out there, and so it's
That's a true statement. That's a true statement.
Plus, wait a minute. There's one other thing too, though.
Yeah.
You guys have historically had better athletes than we have. And so that makes it even more interesting. Yeah.
Now, it's interesting that you say that, because Notre Dame has obviously had unbelievable athletes over the years, first round picks and Heisman winners and all the rest of it. But I think there is something to what you're saying, and I think it even carries over to this year, right? Where I think Notre Dame's best players are guys like their left tackle, they're big dudes, they're strong dudes. USC's best player is a crazy talented quarterback. I mean, there is something to that about.
Right.
I mean, you played corner, so you weren't that's not exactly a blue collar position, but Notre Dame over the years, especially when the Irish were good. I mean, I remember those Lou Holtz years. They were, if you're a USC fan, those were the worst because it's not that you guys didn't have athletes. I mean, Tony Rice was an athlete. Rocket Ismail was incredible.
Rocket Ismail, Bettis, Jerome Bettis, all of them.
Bettis, Brooks, all the Waters. I mean, you guys had great athletes. But what really made Notre Dame great was that they were so tough, right? In the trenches, they would just beat the hell out of you, right? That's real. And there's something about that with Notre Dame, this blue collar way of playing football, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and I think that's what's the difference this year. I think up front, they probably got one of the best offensive lines in college football. Now, last weekend, we weren't able to move the ball or run the ball, but I think they have shown that they can run the ball pretty effectively. And then they've got a pretty decent running back. But I got to make one other comment about that quarterback.
Yeah.
Our quarterback this year is a good quarterback as well. Now, he's not as good as your quarterback, but he's a good quarterback.
In fact, you know what? I'm not going to get it. We're going to save that because I want to save till the end our analysis of this year's game. But you're right. Okay. Hartman is a good player, and he's the best quarterback you guys have had in a few years now. So, absolutely. Okay. I want to ask you about some of these other games, though, because Notre Dame has some other rivalries. Notre Dame Michigan's been a great game. You guys don't play every year, but it's been a great game for a long time. Why is USC Notre Dame better than Notre Dame Michigan?
I think Notre Dame Michigan is kind of a regional rivalry versus USC Notre Dame is a national rivalry. And you guys play all over the country, and so do we. Michigan basically plays in the Midwest, and they play in Ohio State, Penn State. But we play all over, and so do you guys. I know you guys play a lot of games on the West Coast, but you guys come out and every once in a while play somebody. Like at one time you guys played Alabama, and then that was years and years ago. But at least you guys went out there and did that, and I tip my hat to you when you can do something like that.
Well, even in the last 20 years, we played Ohio State and Auburn and Arkansas.
Oh, that's right. You know
Texas.
What? Remember we went to the game.
We did. Yeah. So we've been to a lot of, okay. First of all, we've been to a lot of USC Notre Dame games, but we've seen Notre Dame and Texas.
Yeah.
Which was a tough one. We saw USC Alabama, which was a freaking disaster.
But it was a good game. It was a game.
It was not a good game. It was not a good game. It was a disaster. So, and the funny thing is, you talk about, USC plays a lot of West Coast games. Not anymore. Not starting next year. We're going to be up in your neck of the woods all the time.
I know. I understand that, man. It's going to be interesting to do that. But you know what? It's going to be exciting, I think.
Yeah. No. All right. So let's talk about some Notre Dame history. The people that watch this show every week, I talk a lot about USC history, and they're USC fans. They know. Let's talk a little bit about Notre Dame history, and I don't want to go back all the way to the leather helmet days because you weren't around then. You're an old man, but you weren't around then. But you were around for two legendary Notre Dame coaches, Era and Dan Devine. Let's start with Era. What should USC fans know about him?
Era was by far, to me, the best coach I've ever had, either high school, college, and professionally. He was knowledgeable. He knew offense, defense, special teams. He could have been an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. And the real key to his success was that he knew how to motivate players. Whether you were a superstar or whether you got on the bench, he could come in that locker room and make you feel like you're the most important person ever. And so he could do that better than anybody I've ever seen. Now, the antithesis of that is Dan Devine. Dan Devine couldn't do that. He just had good offensive and defensive coaches and a great talented team. So, you get a different flavor from, two different kinds of guys in two different eras, but Dan Devine just didn't have the skill set that Ara Parseghian had.
My impression from talking to you and Danny Knott and some of the other Notre Dame guys that I've met over the years is that Era's players loved him, like
Yes.
really loved the guy.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and I met him. I met him once upon a time in South Bend because I was hanging out with you at a tailgate, and Era was there, and I spent probably 10 or 15 minutes talking to him, which isn't a lot to get to know somebody. But I'll say this: he came off like a great guy, and I know exactly what you're talking about because I was absolutely nobody to him. Not only was I a nobody, I was a nobody wearing USC stuff, and he went out of his way to make me comfortable and ask about me and compliment the USC program. Just a great dude from what I could tell.
It was a class act. And when I got there as a high schooler on the recruiting trip, they said they call him the man. That's what the other players called him, the man. And he was. And, he was the man on campus. He was the man everywhere we went. It was my honor to really play with a guy like that.
Now,
once in a lifetime kind of guy.
Yeah. So tell me, how is it that you ended up at Notre Dame? It must have been a bitter disappointment not to play at a good program like USC. What happened? Did you get hurt your senior year? What happened?
I actually, to be honest with you, I only got recruited by like 6 or 8 schools. And I went on, I think back then you could only go on 4 recruiting trips. So I went to Indiana University, Purdue University, University of Cincinnati, and then Notre Dame. And then, so as I tell the story, at each one of these schools, they had like a different strategy of how to get me to go there. So when I went to Purdue, they had a guy, you remember Leroy Keys? He played offense and defense. Big guy, 6'3", right. Was defensive back, running back. And they said, we want you to be the next Leroy Keys. Okay, all right. But, I wasn't into really being a real running back. And then I went to IU, and Lee Corso said, we want you to be Quinn Buckner. You remember Quinn Buckner? He played basketball and football. That's what I did in high school. And I got a chance to meet him.
What kind of basketball player were you?
I played small forward, man. I couldn't really shoot as well, but I was a good jumper and good defender.
Okay, but you're 6'3", right?
Yeah, I was 6'3".
Okay, forget it. No, a 6'3" guy who can't shoot has no business playing college basketball. Okay. Well, but I'm gonna tell the rest of your story, but I'm gonna ask you about Lee Corso in a minute because he's obviously become hugely famous since then. Okay,
absolutely.
All right, so that was Indiana.
That was Indiana, and then when I went to Cincinnati, they said, well, you're the biggest star that we're trying to recruit. We just hope you be here, and you're going to be our celebrity on campus. I go to Notre Dame, and the Air asked me one question. He says, what do you want to play? I said, I just want to be on defense. He says, done. He said, we've got enough running backs. We don't need no running backs. He says, if you're a defensive back, you're going to be able to play and be effective. And that was it. And I was like, I'm sold. So that was my recruiting trip.
Now, the funny thing is that you actually did become a celebrity on Notre Dame's campus because you were so successful there. The first time I went to see a USC-Notre Dame game in South Bend, it was 1997. And actually, I was sitting with you and Danny in the at that time it was the 20th anniversary national championship team. I was sitting with all of your teammates. Yeah. By the way, that's crazy, right? Because that was the 20th anniversary. This year, it's like the 80th,
50.
anniversary.
It's 50. Okay, it's 50 years, man.
So
can't believe that.
But there was a huge poster of you on the stadium, on the outside. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they take that down yet?
Yeah, when they renovated the stadium, they took all those down and they just put little pictures and little things up about All-Americans. Yeah.
What did they do? What did they do with it? Did you take it home and put it on your house?
I had them send it. I had to send it to my house. Oh yeah, I was going to keep that. And I refused to put it up. It's just a big head. I mean, that's all. So, but I'm not going to give it away, man. That thing is special.
No, of course not. Okay, so I want to ask you about Lee Corso. I don't know how well you got to know, but it's funny. Lee Corso was not the most successful college coach in terms of wins and losses of all time, but he may have become the most famous coach of his generation because of what he's been doing on game day for the last 20 years and putting the headpieces on and all that.
Yeah.
Was he
Yeah.
funny? When you met with him, was he funny? Because he got hilarious later.
Oh, he is hilarious. He was funny. And I mean, if they didn't have like a bad football team, I would consider going there.
Yeah.
But they had a bad football team and it was a party school. And so I went there. Listen to this. I went there. I got there on a Friday night at like 5 o'clock. And I never went to sleep a Friday, Saturday, and I left Sunday night. I was worn out. And I said, if I end up going here, I'm going to flunk out. So I wasn't going to go to IU. I'm telling you. It's a party school. So,
yeah. Which Notre Dame is not.
No, not a party.
Notre Dame is not. I mean, it's hard to be a party school when I'm trying to figure out if I should say this, and everybody who's watching this knows that I'm going to because I always do. Look,
Go ahead.
Okay, so before I think the first year that Notre Dame had women on campus was right about the time you showed up, right? Maybe the year before.
My year was the first year. My year was the first year they had women on campus.
Okay, now tell me whether this is true because I've heard this from people. I heard that Notre Dame decided they would let women on campus, but only if those women looked like men. Is that the policy? And is that still Notre Dame's policy?
No, that is not true. That is not true.
Because here's the thing.
You know what they did say though is that the women had to be smart. That's all they want them to be smart.
I'm sure they're very intelligent women. Look. If you go to USC Notre Dame game, even if you can't see what colors the girl is wearing, once she gets within like 40 feet, you know which school she's associated with. That's just the way it is. You know that.
What? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
Is it true that McCain's wife, the senator from Arizona, his wife was a cheerleader, SC cheerleader?
That is my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing her when they came to South Bend. So anyway, she was a track star.
Wait a minute.
Why?
She made that much of an impression on you that you remember her like decades later?
When Aaron said they had the prettiest cheerleaders, I'm like, wait a minute. I walked by one of them and said, oh, yeah, he's kind of right about that. But
okay. So listen, I need to ask you this because USC and Notre Dame over the years, obviously USC and Notre Dame are both all-time top 5 programs, national titles, Heisman winners, incredible accomplishments. But take Ohio State. Ohio State hasn't had the same. They've had down years, and they've had coaches who weren't as successful. But Ohio State never has these long dry spells where they hire the wrong guy and they're terrible for 5 or 6 years. USC and Notre Dame fans over the years have had to suffer through that, right? Where we make bad coaching hires, and all of a sudden just the floor falls out, and you're in free fall. Why is that? Why is it that our schools can't do this?
I'm going to tell you one reason I think it's the truth. That's the case.
Okay.
I believe that beside what you think, our academic standards are really, really high, and that we can't get top flight athletes that the Ohio States and Alabama and Southern Cal get because they let everybody in the university that wants to go there, whether they go to class or not. But we're different. So that is the real reason.
Okay, so the real reason is that you guys aren't able to recruit good football players because you're too smart, right? Like you're like Harvard. You guys should be in the Ivy League. It's just impossible for you. But here's the funny thing.
What?
And look, Notre Dame is a good academic institution. It is.
Absolutely. By the way, Chris, I got to say that my son went to USC med school, so I got to give you guys props. I know he did. Okay.
All right. In fact, not only did he go, but he was at the top of his class there, wasn't he?
He was. You're gonna make me cry, man. Don't make me start crying.
I'm not gonna make you. I'll wait till Saturday. You'll cry plenty Saturday. But no, look, USC is also a great academic institution. But look, Michigan's strong academically. I mean, there are other programs that are. I haven't been able to figure it out. At USC, we up until this time, we tend to hire a guy that nobody else would hire. And Notre Dame does a little bit of that too, hiring guys that nobody else would hire. And I can't
they typically want somebody who will be there for 10 or 15 years. They don't want somebody to be there for 5 years and gone. So they normally hire younger guys who they think are going to be successful.
Is that why you guys paid Charlie Weiss for 10 or 15 years?
Oh, that was the worst decision ever, man.
Now, here's
Ever.
the thing, though. Charlie
What?
Weiss was a genius because terrible football coach. But there was a time where Charlie Weiss was being paid by Notre Dame and Kansas and somebody else. I mean, that guy made a lot of money. That guy
He
made a
did.
lot of money from losing one close game to USC.
Absolutely. Well, I think he made his reputation at the Patriots. That was it. And so when he did that, it was over.
It
I think the
turns
Patriots
out
won like 2 Super Bowls. I think they won 2 Super Bowls with him.
it turns out that it may have been more Tom Brady than Charlie Weiss.
I agree. 100%.
All right, let's before we get into this year's game, and I want to spend some time on that. Let's talk about some of your favorite and least favorite USC Notre Dame games in years past. Give me some of the ones that you really enjoyed. I know some of the ones you didn't enjoy. Let's talk about some of the ones you loved.
Well, I love the 2 games that we played against and we won. We beat them both. I got to tell you the ones I hate, though. The Bush push. I'm still mad about that. It's irritating. And then I see these guys in the NFL call that play every day now for 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
All right, so
awful.
You probably already know this, but that is my all-time favorite it's my all-time favorite sporting event, that game. And here's what I remember: a few different things about it.
Wait a minute, were we together? I think we might have been together. I don't know.
We were. No, we were. Here's what happened. We were not sitting together that game, but we walked to the stadium together and we walked back afterwards. And when I met you afterwards, you were unable to speak for probably, it had to have been 45 minutes or an hour. I'd look over at you and you couldn't say anything. You would just shake your head. And that gave me so much joy. I was already thrilled by the win, but then when I saw how much it was hurting my Notre Dame friends, that just made it so much better. I loved that night.
That was one of the worst times of my life, man. I'm telling you, I couldn't hardly talk. I couldn't talk, Chris. It still bothers me, man. It still bothers me.
Yeah, look, I get it. And here's the thing. I'll tell you what, the other thing I remember, and because I've been to South Bend a bunch of times now, but there was something special about the atmosphere before that game, right? Just walking on campus hours before kickoff, you could feel it. Like there was electricity in the air that you don't get very often. That was an extraordinary event.
It was. And you know what? I really believe that this game is going to be kind of the same way. But you know what, Chris? All of these games are like that to me. They're all big time. They're all national TV. When NBC started telling you the game on Saturday night and they start telling you on Monday night, that means Monday night is going to have a packed crowd and it's going to have an audience that's going to be out of sight.
Listen, USC and Notre Dame have both been disappointing so far this year. USC hasn't lost yet. We haven't played anybody yet.
Yeah.
I thought coming into the season, the USC and Notre Dame both had a legitimate chance at making the playoff. And I thought Hartman may have been the missing piece for you guys. I thought with that quarterback, both teams have a shot. Neither team has been as good as they were expected to be. But this is what I want to say. Because there are people that look at this and say, Notre Dame has 2 losses. USC is going to lose some games this year. Neither one.
They're going to lose Saturday. Go ahead. They're going to lose Saturday, but go ahead.
We'll talk about that.
Go ahead.
It's always special when USC and Notre Dame play. And I'll tell you right now, I don't care. There were games where Notre Dame was absolutely terrible, and it still meant something to win that game. It means something to win a game in this rivalry. By the way, do you realize, I just looked this up today. I said, okay, let's go back. I started with John McKay. John McKay comes to USC in 1960. And I counted up the wins from the time John McKay arrived until the present. And you know what? Notre Dame has 30 wins and USC has 29 during that time period. There's some ties thrown in too.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So, you're talking about not only 2 elite programs, but you're talking about a rivalry that while it's had its streaks, right? Holtz had a big one, Carroll had a big one. But the reality is these two teams have broken each other's hearts about the same number of times over the years.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And you know what? I think people expect it. I think
Yeah.
when people watch TV on Saturday night, they're gonna say something special is gonna happen tonight. You watch.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, and I'll say this because I started watching USC at exactly the wrong time. I started watching at the very beginning of that long streak that started in I think '83. I mean, I was a USC fan for 13 years before I saw USC actually beat Notre Dame. You know how much that hurts, Luther, which is why I never those years when Pete Carroll had the best team in the country and Notre Dame had garbage and we would just curb stomp you guys, I felt nothing but joy. I didn't feel bad about it. I'm still trying to make up for the trauma. There was so much of it. It lasted so long.
Oh yeah. But you know, prior to us beating SC in '73, we hadn't beat Southern Cal in 10 years.
Yeah,
I did I didn't
it's been an
yeah.
interesting rivalry that way that these
Yeah,
both
it,
teams
it
have
goes
had
a
these
long time, and
streaks.
then all of a sudden we kind of take over, and then Southern Cal comes back and take over again.
Okay. Let's talk about this year's game. Now, oh, by the way, I got a question for you. This will tell me how confident you are in your prediction. Are we sitting next to each other this year?
I don't think we're sitting next to each other.
Okay, then I know you're not confident because here's what I've discovered over the years.
Stop
When
that.
you no no no
Go ahead. Go ahead.
when you think that Notre Dame is going to win, you make sure that I am right next to you so you can taunt me the entire game. And when you're not confident, you're sitting off somewhere else, so I can't say anything to you. This has happened over and over again.
Chris, that's the truth. That is the truth. That's
I mean,
the truth.
what was it? It was about 6 years ago where we were in the middle of our Clay Helton years, and I actually got up and left at halftime because I couldn't listen to you anymore. It was
Oh,
30.
I remember. And
It
wait a
was
minute. I looked around and I said, wait a minute. Where's Chris? No Chris. No bye. No hello. No,
no.
I'm
I want to
gone.
say bye to you. Look, it was 35-0 at the half, and that drive back to Chicago after the game is so bad. And I thought, you wouldn't shut up. The reason you didn't notice that I got up and left is because you wouldn't stop talking the whole time. And I thought, I'm not going to listen to this anymore. I'm just going to get up. I'm going to leave. I hate my life. I hate this game. I hate everything. It was the worst. But
Oh, that's too funny.
you made sure to have me nearby that day because you knew what was going to happen. Okay, let's
Wait,
talk
wait,
about. Wait,
Can I tell the fans one other thing?
yeah, please.
Chris has got a son that I'm trying to get to go to Notre Dame, but he refuses to give him an opportunity. And I'm really disappointed with Chris because he knows that Notre Dame is a better academic institution, and he won't allow his son to even consider it.
I won't allow him to consider it because I don't want my son to be a career criminal, and I don't understand why you would want that for him. You guys are a criminal organization. You cheat. Every time we play a game in South Bend, we get cheated on 3 or 4 calls by the officials. I know you guys are paying those guys off. It's outrageous.
Oh, please, Chris, please. Carroll was the worst of them all. But go ahead. I ain't gonna get into Carroll. He was the worst of them all.
Carroll was a great man. Pete Carroll was a great man.
Pete Carroll was a cheater, and you know he was
not a cheater. Some criminal who probably went to Notre Dame paid Reggie's family to try to get Reggie to leave USC. It wasn't helping us. All right, listen, I'm not going to talk about that because that'll just get me mad. That'll just get me mad. Let's talk about Marcus Freeman.
All right.
Young guy, not the most experienced guy when Notre Dame hired him. Didn't have any head coaching experience. Good defensive coordinator, good recruiter. What should we think about Marcus Freeman if we don't follow the Irish as closely as you do?
When Marcus got hired, I went down there for the spring game. They had all the alumni to come back, and I had a chance to talk to some of his current players on the team. And it was right after Kelly left. And this guy said, he was on the team, and he was like a junior. He's like, this is a breath of fresh air. He said, this guy is likable, he's knowledgeable, and he cares. And he said Kelly had none of that. All Kelly wanted to do is go out there and be Kelly, the Notre Dame coach, and go to the next place. And he said we all knew that. So they like this guy, and they'll play for him, and they'll do anything for him. So I think that's why he's going to be successful.
Kelly did seem like kind of a jerk. I mean, that was
He
always
was
my
a
approach.
jerk. He was a jerk. He
But
was
you
a
know
jerk.
what? You know what Kelly did well
Wait a minute,
though.
wait a minute, Chris. Let me ask you one other question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you leave? Would you now? So Notre Dame is paying Kelly $2.5 million, and LSU is going to pay him $8 million. I mean, would you leave? I mean, it seemed like that one might be.
That's a lot of money, man.
That's
That's a lot
a
of
lot
money.
of cash. That's a lot of cash.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, that's a lot of money. I think for that pay increase, I think that'd probably go too. It's hard to blame him for that, but
I know 3 times as much. Yeah.
I sort of felt like his welcome was a little bit worn out. I don't think anybody likes Brian Kelly. I bet they don't like him at LSU either. He's just kind of a jerk.
Yeah, they don't like him at down there either, but you know they're okay.
But you know what Kelly does really well?
What's that?
He has 11 players on the field defensively. And
that's painful. That's painful. That's painful. Christian, you're low life. You are low life. I want your fans to know that's painful. Because you know what? We should have beat Ohio State. We should have beat them. We got 10 men on the floor, on the field with the last 2 players of the game.
I know. Listen, you know how many, I can count the number of times I rooted for Notre Dame on one hand, and I was actually pulling for you guys against Ohio State, and then you pull that stunt. 10 guys?
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So let's talk about this Notre Dame team. Let me tell you what. I watched all of the Ohio State game. I've watched some of every game, but the Ohio State game is the only one I watched all of. My impression of Notre Dame is they're physical. That offensive line, I don't know why they didn't run the ball very well against Louisville. I think that offensive line is a pretty good group. Audric Estime is a good back and is a physical dude. Notre Dame always has good tight ends. It strikes me as a physical, tough football team, but one that doesn't have much explosiveness. I'm trying to figure out who on that team I should be scared of, and I can't think of them.
Yeah, I think you're right, and particularly at the wide receiver position. We don't have anybody that'll blow by you and, scare you to death. But, they'll run the ball. They'll do some good routes. They'll run good crisp routes and 15, 20-yard routes, but they're not going to blow past you. I think the issue is that we are ground running game control by running the football, keep the ball, score when we can, and that's how we win football games. Yeah. And our quarterback normally makes pretty good decisions.
Yeah. He turned the ball over a lot last week, but he's a good he's a good player, and he's an experienced guy. He's not Caleb Williams, but that's not fair because nobody's Caleb Williams. But he's a good player, and I think Notre Dame's running game should be a strength Saturday, especially against USC, which hasn't defended the run very well this year. And playing at home is a huge advantage because Notre Dame is good at home. The crowd for this game is going to be out of control, and I think the weather's going to be garbage, right? And all of those things lead me to think that USC has a tough, USC probably has to be 10 points better than Notre Dame to beat them in that atmosphere, is my guess.
Well, I'm going to make this comment.
Yeah.
Without Caleb Williams, you guys are like 2 and 3. I'm telling you. Without Caleb Williams, game changer. Game changer. The rest of those guys are average as far as I'm concerned.
So, okay, let's talk about USC. You're partly right. Without Caleb Williams, USC is an 8-4 football team.
Absolutely.
But here's what USC does have. USC has some explosive athletes, especially offensively. They have some explosive athletes, and if our freshman Zachariah Branch comes back, that he's the closest thing you'll ever see to Rocket Ismail. I mean, he's
Can he fly?
Unbelievable.
Can he run? He can run.
He can run. You're talking about a 10-3 100-meter guy in high school who's also shifty and has great vision. He's spectacular.
I didn't know that.
He's the best. He's the best athlete we've had since Reggie, but he's been out the last 2 weeks. I don't know if he's going to play Saturday. USC has some athletes, and Caleb Williams is about as good a college quarterback as you'll ever see, right? Because he can do everything.
Oh,
He can do
absolutely.
everything.
And you know what? And he's confident. That's what pisses me off. I mean, he's confident about it. He knows that he's going to do it. And he'll basically tell you, I'm going to go and drop back and throw a 25-yard curl, or I can drop back and I can run for 20 yards. Either one, you take the pick.
Yeah,
You know?
and the thing about Caleb is, even when he's not playing very well, because last week he didn't play particularly well for him. He made some bad decisions. He missed on some throws he usually doesn't miss. And so he decided, okay, then I'm going to run around today. And he ran around a bunch and made plays. He can do, right? I mean, he's essentially college Patrick Mahomes. He can do whatever he needs to do to win a football game, which is obviously USC's huge advantage, right? Because at the most important position on the field, USC has not just the best player in this game, but the best player who doesn't play on Sundays. And he's probably better than a lot of the guys who do.
Absolutely. He's no question the best guy in college football. I believe that.
Yeah.
The thing is your Achilles heel is you guys don't have no defense. So we're going to score. I said, this is what I told Danny Knott, my buddy. I said, we're going to score. We need to score 50 to make sure that we win, because you guys are going to probably score 40.
Well, so it depends. It depends. Here's the thing.
Wait. Colorado can't play. And you know it.
No, you're right. But look, USC was ahead 41-7 in that game.
I remember.
Just stopped playing. And last week against Arizona, USC didn't start playing until the middle of the second quarter. I don't know what's going on with those guys, but I don't think their head's right, number one. And number two, they're doing some things defensively that I think are fundamentally unsound to make it very difficult to play good defense. And I don't trust the secondary. I don't trust them to tackle, and I don't trust them to cover. Fortunately, Notre Dame's receivers aren't as good as some of the other teams we play. But if they don't do a better job against the run against the Irish, Caleb Williams isn't going to get the ball more than 3 times a half, because you guys are going to run the ball 6 yards a carry and hold it 8 minutes every time you get it.
I agree. I bet you that's going to be their game plan.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Here's my question, though. So what Arizona did last week to USC is they just threw a ton of defensive backs on the field. I mean, they had seven defensive backs playing much of the night. And USC was stubborn and didn't run the ball. And when they did run it, they didn't run it particularly well. And they actually slowed down USC's offense. Now, I don't think Notre Dame is going to do that, because programs like Notre Dame and USC are always too arrogant. And they figure, you know what? We're going to do what we do. We're going to play our game. But if you guys come out there and man up on USC's wideouts, you're going to give up 48 points. You just are. You don't. You have one corner who's really good, and you don't have anybody else who can match up with USC's wide receivers. And Caleb Williams will make you pay. But if you just keep everything in front and force USC to dink and dunk down the field, they're not going to want to do it. Lincoln Riley hates to do it. Caleb Williams hates to do it. And they'll start forcing things downfield. And then the Trojans are in trouble. I don't know what you guys are going to do. I think you're going to man up and you're going to try to show that you're better than USC, and you're going to get torched. But I don't know. Marcus Freeman may be smarter.
I don't know here. All I know is that, to me, the best ingredient of winning this football game is we got to keep the ball away from Caleb Williams. That's all I know. We got to keep it away from him, because he's going to score. I think you guys are going to score 35, 40 points. I believe that.
I think that's right. And I think Notre Dame's not going to have trouble moving the ball and scoring points either. I think it's probably going to be a shootout, because all of USC's games are shootouts. And so look, in a big game with evenly matched teams, especially one where it's bad weather, this game's going to come down to turnovers.
Yep, I agree. Chris, you know a little bit about football, man. What
of course I know a little bit about it.
You don't learn it in the courtroom. I don't know where you learn football at.
Hey, I mean, I played once upon a time. I wasn't getting recruited by Lee Corso or anything, but played a little bit. Okay, so let's hear it then. Give me.
Tell me a little bit about your history. You got to tell me a little bit about your history. I don't know your athletic history.
Okay, well, nobody here's interest in my athletic history. You're the All-American.
I want to hear. Just give me one little tidbit.
Okay, listen. I played defensive back at William Jewell College in Kansas City. That's the same
Okay.
school that Dan Lanning, the Oregon head coach, went to. It's where Bill Snyder, the former Kansas State head coach, he was also a William Jewell football player.
Okay.
We weren't particularly good when I was there, and I was, I played. I was a team captain even, but I
Oh,
was
what?
just,
No,
but I
you
was just,
didn't.
but I was just
You didn't.
okay. I was just okay. That may be a team captain because maybe somebody would have to give a speech, not because I was doing anything. But all right, so that's that. All right,
All
here
right.
we go.
Okay. All right.
It's time. I want you to give me your 30 seconds about what's going to happen, and then give me your final score prediction. Then I'll do the same.
I think it's going to be a good game. I think the weather is going to be a factor. I believe our quarterback is going to be mad from last week since he threw 3 interceptions. He's going to do better this year, making better decisions. And our defense is going to come to play. They're going to still give up 30 points, but they're going to come to play better this week. So my theory is, my prediction, I think Notre Dame wins 42-35.
Okay.
All right.
Not a terrible prediction. All right,
Okay.
here's mine. I think USC is going to have a lot of blown assignments defensively and give up some big plays. They do it every week, and especially in this game where the atmosphere is going to be a little bit challenging. Caleb Williams was off throwing the ball last week. Caleb Williams will not be off 2 weeks in a row throwing the ball. He is going to put on a show. And it's going to come down to whether or not USC is able to slow down Notre Dame's running game. And I think they will. They did last year because they committed to stopping the run. And Drew Pine threw for a lot of yards.
Yeah.
And I think Hartman's going to throw for a lot of yards. But I think they're going to commit to stopping the run. I think they'll slow it down. And at the end, it's going to come down to whether or not Notre Dame can stop Caleb Williams when they have to. And the answer is no. 41-31 Trojans.
I like that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, buddy. I'm telling you. Well, we'll see each other on Saturday night then.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. We'll have to talk before the game, because after the game, one of us, I don't know which one, isn't going to want to talk. So we'll have to hang out before.
Hey, well, listen, when you get on campus, give me a buzz.
I'll do that. Hey, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. This time, look, it's still recording, so we're in good shape. We're going to get this thing up, and I know everybody's going to be excited to hear what you have to say. Have a good one,
All right,
friend.
my friend. Thanks a lot for having me.